smells so good right here. I'm not even cooking and it smells good.
Yeah, I think it would be happy with just a little.
We're going to try it again because it's one of my favorite herbs.
And you can use coriander too.
Oh yeah, I love coriander.
So just let somebody go to see.
We'll go ahead and get started here in about 1 minute. Give
Part of it,
people a few more minutes to join
I
in.
like that floral spice.
I'm going to.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and start, and as people join us, that will be great. So welcome to our monthly cooking demonstration with American Dairy Association in Indiana. My name is Janet Kamiri. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness at the Indianapolis Urban League, and it is just really exciting to have people joining us. I know as the weather is getting a little nicer out, people have lots of exciting things to do in the evenings, and I'm just so glad that you're spending tonight with us. Tonight, you will be hearing from a special guest, Vivian Muhammad of the Elephant Gardens, and she will be talking to us just about her work and then showing us how easy it is for people to grow food at home. Then we'll also be seeing a cooking demonstration with Michelle from American Dairy and some nutrition information as well. So just a few housekeeping things. We are recording this session. You are welcome to leave your cameras on if you'd like. We like seeing your faces, but we do ask that you stay muted during the presentation. If you have questions or comments, want to interact with us, go ahead and enter that information and questions into the chat box, and we'll be sure to check that and get those questions answered tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Vivian to kick us off.
And I'm here today to show you how to start your own plants and do some container gardening. Well, to start off, a lot of people always ask us how we got started in gardening. And if you, on my next slide, you'll see we started in our backyard. And from our backyard, which we decided to tear up the front yard too. So on our next slide, you'll see where we kind of transformed our backyard. And we even had an old dog run that we transformed into our greenhouse. And our motivations were really basically that I was a vegetarian and wanted to grow my own food because of that. And, you know, organic food is so expensive. So we decided to grow our own, or at least try our hand at it. And also my father and great grandmother were all, you know, interested in farming or did farm. My great grandmother was a farmer. My dad always wanted to farm. And then I read a book by a man named Elijah Muhammad, which is on the next slide, called How to Eat to Live. And that really kind of changed the game for me, because there was this one sentence he said in there, and you can go to the next slide, about, you know, if you want to start a community or a business or anything, the first thing you got to do is start farming. And so that really triggered something in me. And How to Eat to Live, he was saying basically, if you don't learn how to grow your own food, you can't really implement eating healthy like you want to. And so that kind of changed the game for me. It kind of took all that my dad and my grandmother and everybody else had kind of put in me and motivated me into action. And so what we did was purchase a couple of 1/4 acre lots. And the picture you see there is of our Denny property. We have 2 1/4 acre lots, one on Sherman, 3348 Sherman, and the other's right around the corner at 33rd and Denny. And we purchased those lots kind of back to back and began our little journey. Everybody always asks us why we call ourselves the Elephant Gardens. And it really had to do with how we conceptualized elephants and our whole, that's from the Nation of Islam has a Ministry of Agriculture. And through that, I got exposed to staple goods. And I'll talk more about that later. But because we also sell staple goods. But elephants, which is why we call ourselves the Elephant Gardens, because elephants are very loyal to their youth. They're herbivores. So we really wanted a symbol in our community where vegetarianism is kind of like, how can you survive with no meat, you know? And so the elephant was a wonderful poster child for surviving with no meat, because this is a huge land animal that has a diet that is plant-based. They're herbivores and they are protective of their youth. And we really envisioned this whole elephant garden thing eventually being turned over to the youth. And we really thought that an animal that really protected their youth was a nice symbol. And last, the elephants are also have the loyalty to their community. And we wanted a symbol of someone that was in fact loyal to their community. And an inspiration for me was a man named Louis Farrakhan, who had introduced me to how to eat to live through a lecture that I saw. And so it was kind of like a shout out to him saying, thank you very much for this information, because I'm taking it and running. And on there, he said, I heard in a lecture once that he said that the trumpet was a symbol that he liked. And I'm like, the elephant has a trumpet. So it's kind of all those things to come together that caused me to call our garden the Elephant Gardens. Slide, please. And to speed things up just a little, we started several organizations when I started farming. I partnered with several other urban growers in our area, and we started the Indiana Black Farmers Co-op, which was a group of Black farmers in the neighborhood who were dedicated to making sure people in our communities, which are unfortunately food deserts, that they had access to healthy food options. And so this co-op, our goal was to have farmers markets, which we had all over. We had one on the east side. We had another one the east side, Post, 38th and Post. Then we had another one at 38th and Forest Manor. And then we had another one at 46th and Arlington. And we started having all these farmers markets in different places to kind of promote the idea of eating healthy and eating vegetables and supporting farmers, especially locally grown produce. So all of those were the concepts that we pulled together. And then we decided to start big, which was Black independent growers. And the idea behind that was, hey, you know what? We need to get out of Indiana. We need to start pulling some produce from all these growers, organic growers, by the way, that are in all these other communities that might be growing things that we can't or don't grow. And then our best project to date is Tomorrowland's Children. It's a 4-H program. We were trained by Sandy and Chuck Daly with, they are with St. Peter's Episcopal Church. And Sandy had gone and got the training for junior master gardeners. She trained us. And so we decided to start a 4-H program, which we call Tomorrowland's Children. I think the name is kind of self-explanatory. And we did a whole youth summer camp, and we're still doing that. So that's, I say it's our best project to date, because the vision, as I mentioned before, was really to at one point turn this whole project over into the hands of the youth. And so it's kind of inching us closer to fulfilling that vision. What we grow a little bit of everything. In the center in that picture, you see our newest addition, which is our little mobile pharmacy, which of course is a play on words. And my mother and I have on these little lab coats, and you know, we're pushing our carrots and all that other kind of stuff. But this is just a picture of some of the things we grow. We grow everything from potatoes to carrots to green beans to onions, a host of things. And the staple goods, which I mentioned earlier, we got involved with that because we found out that we could basically bring large bulk items like navy beans and whole wheat and whatnot from the south to the north. And they just needed someone that would be a coordinator for this locale. So I decided to be the coordinator. So we also sell those things in smaller containers. We also sell, distribute, I should say, because we don't grow our own, organic turmeric and organic chlorella. And those are just some healthy food items that I personally feel everybody needs to eat. So, and you can put them in your smoothies, yada, yada, but those are just some of the things that we sell. Next slide. Oh, and that's me in the front yard that we tore up. And that's my mom at our table before we got our mobile pharmacy. And the lower picture is of the mobile pharmacy, which we just started using last summer. The echinacea is something we grow a lot of, obviously, and we dehydrate that and sell it in tea bags. And some of the partners and some of the things that we've done, we got a SARE grant, and through that grant, we were able to actually have our mobile pharmacy painted. And we're developing the health and beauty bodega and doing some other things that allow us to service our community better, to put it simple. That's a close-up of all the vegetables are kind of showing off. We call it a health and beauty bodega because we're trying to make the tie between health and beauty. And there is a tie. There's a very, very big tie between, so you got your teethy cucumbers, and even though our pumpkin is like toothless, but okay, whatever. He's still cute. Yeah. So the idea is that, you know, you eat healthy vegetables, you're going to help. You're not only are you going to be healthier, but you're going to be more beautiful. And the mobile pharmacy, yeah, that's me with the tan, obviously. And my mother is on the other side. That's one of the things. That's one of our more fun projects, and one of the things that we had intended to do, but COVID hit and we weren't able to do it, was to take that mobile pharmacy, operative word mobile, to the senior living facilities in the area. We weren't able to implement that last year. Our goal is to implement it at least once a week this year. And we partnered, as I mentioned before, with Chuck and Sandy Daly, a wonderful couple in Lebanon, Indiana. They have a harvest house, and we farm about almost going on 1/4 of an acre now of land there as well. And that really has blessed us because through their partnership, we're able to grow more food. It's just that simple. And growing more food that we can then bring into the city and sell is a no-brainer. They're a wonderful couple, and their support has been just really, and they have a freeze dryer. That's what I wanted to mention. And so when we freeze dry, we already dehydrate our herbs, and this is another option for us. We also freeze dry some of our herbs and fruit. So it's just really been a blessing working with them. And I think that's about it for there. And so I wanted to talk to you today. Am I going to show the demo now? Okay. I wanted to talk to you today about how you can grow. And I want to kind of take the scariness out of it and demystify it a little bit for you. So what I have here is the beginnings of starting your own home garden. You're going to want to start, if you want to start your own starter plants, this is basically my method, and I find it to be pretty successful. We sell a lot of starter plants, so I'm just going to show you the process. You're going to want to get a container like this, which you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards. This is a 72 cell container, there's 105 cells, there's 36 cells, but you just want container similar to this. You're going to fill it with a potting soil, an organic potting soil. And I brought what we use. Of course, we buy tons of this, but this we get from a place called Bree Hobbs, which is here in the city. But the most important thing I want you to see is kind of on the side of the bag. You want to make sure your soil, or whether you're using organic garden soil or potting soil, is OMRI listed. That means that it is been approved by the board that basically says, yes, this is organic. I don't really buy anything that doesn't have that on it, or that doesn't say, especially when it comes to soil, because soil is going to be your most important thing. This is potting soil. So when you're talking about starting your plant, you're not using garden soil. You're using potting soil. It's very different. It's really light. And I can show you. It's a light and fluffy. It's not like heavy garden soil. Okay. So you're going to want to make sure you use potting soil. I mix in something called worm compost or worm castings. You can buy the worm castings for yourself, or you can at Menards, Home Depot, places like that. We order it from a local guy. It's called Castaway Compost. At any rate, this is worm castings. We call this in the farming world liquid gold. And then this is another thing you're going to want to add. And this is your fertilizer. In this case, it's a starter mix fertilizer. And I have the bag back here. I kind of want to just show you. You can see that it's 333, and it also says it's OMRI listed, but you can't see that unless I lift this heavy bag, and I'm not going to. But 333 means it's got an equal parts of nitrogen and potassium and phosphorus in it. So you want to make sure that you have some sort of fertilizer for starter plants. What I do is I get a big wheelbarrow, but you can take a little bucket like this, 5-gallon bucket, and mix in your potting soil, mix in a little bit of your worm castings, mix in a little bit of your starter for fertilizer, get all that together. Then you're going to lay that in your 72 cell or 36 cell starter plant kit, and then you're going to plant your seeds. Okay, so your seed packets will usually tell you what they the instructions on what they are, what cultivar, and also how to grow it. These are heirloom. I love using heirloom seeds because that means this plant's been around for a long time. And so this is my favorite type of seed. We buy seeds from several different places. This one is Seeds of Change. Love this company, but there's High Mowing, there's too many to name, Botanical Interest, but we use only organic seeds and heirloom if we can. And that's very important. Follow the instructions on the seed. They're going to tell you how deep to plant your seed. If you do it right, you're going to put your seeds in at the depth that they ask you, and then you're going to water. So get you a little sprayer or something. Let's see if this isn't my favorite, but there you go. Just something to spray with. And you're going to basically make sure that it's very saturated unless the seed packet tells you otherwise. And then it's going to need heat. It doesn't need light yet, right? They need heat. So you're going to want something like this, which is a heat pad. And this heat pad that you see here, I would actually place this whole tray on top of this heat pad and plug it in. So just pretend that the seeds have been planted and I've watered, and now I'm going to sit the whole thing on this heat pad. And within 2, 3, 4 days, depending on the germination time period for that particular seed, in that amount of time, they're going to germinate. Yay. Germinate just means they come from underneath and they pop up. That's my simple way of putting it. Okay. That's lay language. So when they pop up, you're going to get real excited. You're going to go, oh my God, I got some plants. And then they need light. And in order for them not to get too leggy, you want them to be kind of close to the light. So sometimes we will bolster this up underneath so that they're closer to the light, and we have different lights that we use. These have been exposed to the weather for the first time, so they're kind of like, what's happening? But this particular group is our peppers, and this is how they start off. This is called their first leaf. We're waiting on them to get what they call their true leaf. So when they get their true leaf, it's not this. They all look alike. They look like tomato plants. They all look alike. But once they get their true leaf, and you see this is a tomato plant. These were the original. And then the true leaf would be these. Once they get their true leaf, they're on their way. Then they're stronger. You can manipulate them a little bit more. These have been transplanted from these single cells, which if I were going to transplant, I would just kind of push up on these, take one out, and then put it into this pot. But I wouldn't transplant until they get their true leaf, okay? Because that means they're a little bit more mature, a little bit more sturdy. So you definitely want to let them get their true leaf. And in watering, I definitely would recommend that you get something whereby you can filter your water if you don't have a whole house filter, or you can use bottled water. Distilled water, spring water would be even better because it's got minerals in it. Or you can hook one of these up to your hose outside and use it that way. We rely on these to help filter our water at our gardens. So these are very important. It doesn't have to necessarily be this brand. This is called Garden Hose Filter, but you should get one. Indiana is notorious for hard water, and it has a lot of things in it that are harmful to our plants. So we rely heavily on filters. So I would definitely get a filter for your plants. And if you were going to do container planting, now we've started our plants, we transplanted them into a bigger home, right? So that their roots can spread out. Now we want to take them one step further. Now, say you don't have a 1/4 acre lot, but you want to grow some tomatoes for yourself. I'm here to tell you, you do not have to have a 1/4 acre lot. You do not have to have even a yard. You can have a patio or just a place somewhere outside where you get plenty of sun, okay? And when you get that sun, you can take things like these, which are containers that I love. We plant what we call buddy buckets in these types of containers. Now, buddy buckets for us are companion plants. That's why we call them buddy buckets. And so we might grow peppers and parsley because they are companions, right? They grow well together. Or we might put a tomato plant and basil because they grow well together. So that's why we call them buddy buckets. And we sell these to people that have patios or people who don't want to tear up the backyard. They like their backyard, but they want some plants. So container planting is very, very convenient. And it's a nice option for those who really don't want to get heavy into gardening, but would like to grow their own plants. And so you're going to want to put a little sand at the bottom, just a little, maybe about an inch worth. Why? Because it helps with the draining. Okay, that's the only reason why. If I could also use one of these 5-gallon buckets to grow. If I use something like this, I'm going to want to drill holes in the bottom. Okay, with this type of container, you don't have to. It's porous, so they do drain well. You don't have to put a hole in them, but you should put maybe an inch or 1/4, maybe a 1/2 inch of sand at the bottom. That just helps it drain, but it also helps hold in some of the moisture. So it drains at a slower rate. Then you're going to want to put in garden soil. Garden soil is different from the potting soil. Remember, I told you the potting soil is really light and fluffy because those seeds need to be able to penetrate through. Okay, but your garden soil is a little bit more rich. You can either order it or you can buy bagged garden soil. It's all around. Just make sure you look for that same little omri listed little emblem that I showed you on the potting soil bag. Make sure you see that on your garden soil. Make sure it's organic. Everything we do is organic. Every fertilizer we use is organic. It's just important for a host of reasons. And today we don't have time to deal with all those reasons. But what I would do if I were going to grow in a container is I would just simply take this plant out, and this one just got planted not too long ago in this container. So it may not be as tight as it would be if this had a root system. Oh, the root system did come down already. So I would take it like this. Now, ideally, this would be a little older, but this, I could plant this in here, and I would just simply dig a hole to the depth of this, and I would stick it in. Matter of fact, I would actually cover it all the way up to those original leaves. And you can even pinch off these two. Don't need them, trust me, especially on tomato plants. And get it so that basically your soil would cover all the way up to here. And this thing will root all the way down. This is a 7-gallon bucket, by the way, and I really don't recommend much smaller than this. And it doesn't look like it's 7 gallons,
No.
right? It has a nice compact look to it, but you definitely want something that is big enough to, this is what you're looking for. You have to think of that root system. Okay, and the tomato root system is really going to take up this whole bag. The basil is a nice little additive because the root system is not going to take up that much room. It grows well with the tomato. Okay, so this is how you would grow in a container. And then you just want to make sure you keep it watered. Now that's key because when you're dealing with a more shallow area, I'm going to make sure it gets watered because it can dry out a little faster than your in bed, in garden, in ground, because the in ground is sucking water from all kinds of locations that, you know, you can't see on the surface. This just has the water you put in it. So you gotta make sure that it stays watered. Now, tomatoes tend to be a little heat drought tolerant, but other plants are not. So you're really going to have to watch your plants. Your basil is going to want to get watered even if your tomato doesn't. So keep in mind, if you decide to do some companion planting so you can get more bang for your buck, you're definitely going to want to make sure you keep everything watered properly. And if there's anything I missed, you guys can let me know. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Most of what you see here, the lights, everything. And if I didn't mention the light, this is Fairy Morse is the brand, which is the same as the heat pads. Those you can get at Menards or Lowe's, or you can order online. Most of the stuff you can order online or get through Amazon, or go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or Menards. So it's easy. You can do it. I got these online. Most of my soil amendments, which is what we call these, you can get at just about any garden store locally, unless you're doing some really large growing like we do. We order large shipments, but others, if you just have a small garden or you're going to do container gardening, you can just go to your local garden store for most of your soil amendments. Thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
We do have one question here in the chat box asking, do you have a list of companion plants?
I have a
Things
question
that would
Yes.
be good to.
about how much does it cost to get me started?
How much does it cost? Well,
I mean, if I'm gonna, I guess I always think about, I love going out and getting a suntan, and I love going out and playing in the dirt and all of that. But is it gonna cost me like $100 to get started, and then I still have to go outside and plant and all of that? Or can I get started for maybe $50 and then see how good I am at a green thumb before I really get invested?
Well, I would say set aside 100 to 150, and that just depends on how much you're trying to grow, what you're trying to do. These buckets don't cost very much. They make cost about $5 each. They come in packs usually. Your heat pad is going to be about 20. These can get kind of pricey, but you don't even have to have these, but I recommend them if you really want successful germination. I think you transition from your heat mat to your light. Again, when they're germinating, heat mat, once they pop through, they want light. So you're going to want to make sure they have some kind of light source. So these can be kind of pricey. These were 40. This was 40. And I've seen them online since, and they're like 70, 75. But as a rule, if you go shopping at the right time of the year, you can get this kind of stuff in the winter months for a lot cheaper, okay, or in late fall. So if you start looking for this stuff on the off seasons, you're going to get better prices.
Great.
And the filters, the filters can be kind of pricey too. But once you buy one if you're doing a small little garden, one of these will last you your whole season, if not beyond.
Okay.
So they are like $35. And your soil, a bag like this, which is 2.8 cubics, which is a lot. And I could fill up a couple of buddy buckets, 2 or 3 buddy buckets, and several trays with one bag. That's going to run you about $18. Your compost, that can be pricey if you're using worm compost, but you can buy it in smaller bags. Of course, we buy buckets because we use a lot of it, because we also drop it in each of our holes where we put our seeds when we plant outdoors. By the way, I didn't mention that, but like what I would do before I put my plant in here, after I filled it with my sand and my garden soil and amendments, I would drop some worm compost in there before I put my plant in. It gives it that little extra bit of fertilizer. So I would say 150 to get started if you're really serious. But a lot of the stuff you won't have to invest in next year, right? You'll have your light, you'll have your heat pad, you'll have your trays even. So the trays aren't very expensive, and they come with the lids. Those you can get for about, I think they're about $3 or $4. So everything is reasonable. And again, some stuff you buy one time, you won't have to buy it for a while, if at all.
That's great. That's affordable. I could do that.
Yes.
I love it.
I can start
I
gardening.
have a question too.
Okay.
I think you answered one of the questions that came through earlier, that you
Okay.
can pretty much get all of these things at any of your home improvement stores. So
That's
that is
correct.
good.
Mhm.
But do you have any resources, if we're just getting started, something that you think would be helpful for a beginner? Are there books? Are there classes? Are there what's out
Books.
there?
Oh, there's tons of books, but I think honestly, before I would recommend books, I would recommend like Purdue, your extension centers. They're your best resource. Purdue Extension was extremely helpful for us. We were in the hair care business. We took classes. I graduated from Purdue's Urban Ag Certificate course. We took farm business courses. We took bee courses because we had bees. Well, we did before the winter. We'll have bees again. But, right now, because a lot of people are growing their food and want to try their hand at it, YouTube is, it sounds funny, but before I went and caught that beehive out of the trees, I literally YouTubed it. And then I said, I got this. And so YouTube will help you because they have a lot of how-to, a lot of this hands-on stuff they will show you. But your extension in your area is probably your best resource, even before a book, because you'll get in the book, and I'm just telling you that hands-on, having somebody tell you, show you, that's some more. Yeah, and on our website, we will be having a little how-to video that kind of shows you a lot of these steps. We just haven't finished it, but we'll post that on our website as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
It's exciting.
All right.
we want as many growers as we can get. We need lots of growers. People are always like, why are you helping people? Aren't you trying to make money? But look, we got a lot of people to feed, and we just cannot do it with, 3/4 acres. We need lots of food, and we need lots of people growing.
That's so true.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us on the Zoom? Okay, because we had a couple of questions. One
This is exciting.
was, can you hear us? Hello?
Yeah, it looks like we've got a couple of extra questions that have popped in here.
Oh, good.
Can you do starter plants outside without a heating pad and heat lamps or indoor?
Oh, I don't think they can hear us, Jen.
Indoor first. Even the trip over here has stressed these little babies out because it's like kind of like having an infant versus your, he's fine because he's got his true leaf and he's stronger, but your starters, they're still very, very fragile. In fact, I took some out to the greenhouse, which is heated, but they got a little overheated and they just fell over and I had to plant a whole new tray. So you got to be really careful with the outdoor.
Okay. And there is a question about companion plants. Is there a
Yes.
list somewhere that we can get?
Tons of lists. You can just type in companion plants and if you want, and their charts will come up. And trial and error helps. I have found through experience that tomato basil is just great. The ones, the buddy buckets that we're doing this year are peppers and parsley. They grow great together. Tomatoes and basil. We're doing potatoes and leeks. And an unusual one, but strawberries and borage. And a lot of people aren't familiar with borage. It's a beautiful flower that attracts bees, but it's also an edible medicinal plant and has a beautiful little blue kind of flower on it. Easy to grow, love it, deep taproot. So those are our buddy buckets, but there's lists galore online.
Awesome. Thank you, Vivian. For
You're
anybody
welcome.
out there who's watching, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box and I'll be monitoring it for us so that we can continue to ask Vivian and or Michelle, who will be up next, for any of your questions.
So this is great. We now have our plants planted. And in my world, my garden and my herbs are growing because I garden inside. I have my herbs growing all year long. And I have little planters like this and whatever works in my house. I use milk cartons for planters, real quick and easy. The idea is that I can have them fresh all year long. I was thinking when you were talking, Vivian, about the buddy system.
Yeah.
I planted, last year, I planted my rosemary and my mint and my sage all together. And then I thought, oh, I'll go ahead and put in some basil because I like the smell. No, they don't play nice together. Basil takes all the water and everybody else survives and the basil dies. So I learned early on that basil has to play by herself and she has to be in a whole different container and everybody else is fine. And we've already talked about cilantro. Cilantro may be my nemesis. I have grown it from seed, it bolts and then nothing. But you gave me some helpful tips,
Yeah.
so I'm going to continue.
You're going to
So-
be successful this year.
I hope. So to bring all of this home, I thought we would make a little bit of a herb dip. And then from that herb dip, we're going to build a pita pocket with a tzatziki sauce. And then we're going to go and bring all the herbs and strawberries and everything together. So
Oh my God. Sounds delicious.
we've got a little bit of Greek yogurt here, very, very simple. And then we've got some parsley. We've got some dill that we're gonna peel off right there. We've got our basil. And this is all to taste. You can do whatever herbs you want. I just happen to like these really well to go with vegetables. And we're going to chop them up. And if you have a pizza cutter, if you have little people in your house, a pizza cutter rolling back and forth works really well. The most important thing is basil. Like I said, as much as I love basil, basil gives me headaches. It doesn't like to be cut. It really is the king of the garden. It doesn't like to be messed with. So when you cut it, it's going to turn dark really fast. So to try and prevent that, we are going to add a little bit of lemon juice to our Greek yogurt. The Greek yogurt already has a little bit of acid. And so we should be in good shape. I want to add a little bit of onion flavor. Now in the recipe, it calls for chives. The only chives I have growing right now in my garden are wild garlic chives, and they're bitter and they're not very good. So I chose to use a green onion and just the white part. So that way it's a little bit flavorful, a little bit of an onion, but not a lot. And then we're gonna mix it in. And this is really all we have to do to make that herb dip. I know you can buy packets of herb dip. However, there's something just beautiful about this luscious green, bright color. And we put it right in the middle of our dip. Maybe we sprinkle a few dill prawns on top just because I think that makes it look pretty. But we have a great dish that we can serve as a snack, as an appetizer, anything really for our kiddos after they come home from school, out of the garden, spring break. This is the perfect spring vegetable. We've got some early tomatoes, but cucumbers grow perfect in the garden. You said earlier, you've got peas started, we've got spinach, we've got some greens. So let's see what else we can put together really quickly to make this work. Again, we're going to use basically the same items. We're just going to put it together in a little bit different fashion. I've got the Greek yogurt, our cucumber off of our veg tray. And I seeded it, and I also took the peel off. I think sometimes the peel's hard to chew for little people, and I wanted to make sure that they could enjoy it. A little bit of green onion, again, that's your call if you like that or not. And a little bit of garlic and a little bit of lemon juice. And you just need a little bit of lemon. You don't need a whole lot to do this, but you do want that tartness and that brightness that's going to happen between the yogurt and the lemon juice to make this really nice tzatziki sauce. And then we're going to build some pita pockets. And so we've got some chicken that we had left over from last night's dinner. We're going to add some tomatoes. And we had some Kalamata olives here in the dairy bar where we are today. We had a discussion of who likes Kalamatas and who doesn't, and kind of have a mixed group. So then we're going to add on that fresh flavor, and you really want to add it and pack it full. And then we made some really nice shards of Parmesan on there. That saltiness, we didn't add any salt. We just added flavor. So we used a little bit off of the block. And I want to talk about the block for a minute. The idea is that by using cheese in a block, I can shave it like I did here. I can grate it, or I can just serve this. And if you're doing a charcuterie, you can take your knife and just shave off shards. And we did that a little bit beforehand. Sharp knife, if you'd like. But you're going to get those sharp edges, and those sharp edges are the salt. And that's what makes it so much more flavorful than just getting a nice clean slice, because we didn't get you the salt part first. We kind of severed it off so it was in little bits at a time. So we've got enough pita bread here, chicken pockets for everybody. But we also have all these great herbs that we've really been playing with all day. And while everybody was talking, the smells in here are just amazing. And my strawberries are going everywhere. So a little bit of a mess here as you transport things. But I have a lot of ingredients, but it should go pretty simply. And strawberries grow in Indiana wonderfully, and they grow everywhere. Like this time of year, I've been down to Florida. A lot of people have been, and you've got really nice strawberries. But in May here, our strawberries can't be beat. They're sweet, they're little. And if you ever get to the opportunity to go to a U-Pick and pick your own berries, that rocks. It is just the best. So show of hands, tell me, you get lettuce out of your garden, you get lettuce from the grocery store. Do you guys rinse it off? Do you wash it? Or do you just take it and dump it on the tray? Yeah, I'm a rinser. The dietitian here is going to tell you, this little spinner is awesome. And the reason I like it is it drains out the bottom hole here. The little people can do it. It's small enough that the bigger brother can hold here and the little one can turn. So it's a group project. The more you get in the house, the more fun that everybody is. And then they get to partake. So now we've spun our lettuce. We've got it all clean and washed. And this is the fun part because all you have to do is just throw it out there. It doesn't have to be pretty at all because we're going to make it pretty as we go. So we've got that great spinach. And the nice thing about spinach is that it's really good in a lot of vitamins and nutrition, right, Hannah? So we should be eating it every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Popeye ate it. It was good for
Right?
him.
Yeah, you get good iron. You do get a little calcium from it, but you gotta eat a lot of it.
Okay, so,
So stick with your cheese and your milk and your yogurt. to get
Okay.
that.
but this is the important thing. I think this is just going to make everything beautiful is the strawberries. But the most important thing is to get the iron out of the strawberry, out of the spinach. You have to have something with vitamin C. Strawberries have vitamin C. And may not look like an orange, may not taste like an orange, but it does have its vitamin C. And so it's going to be really helpful to break down all those nutrients so that in this salad, everything is beneficial to the body. I'm going to add a little bit of chicken because some people will like chicken. And then for the vegetarians in your house or for the people that maybe just don't like meat in their salad, there are those people, just put it on half. You don't have to load it all the way up. Then we're going to add some feta cheese. Feta is a nice salty kind of briny cheese. We got it grated. You can also use that Parmesan that we talked about if you want. That's totally up to you. I'm going to add some toasted almonds. I like almonds. The recipe says you can use any kind of nuts. I like walnuts in this really well. Pecans are a little sweet and it all of a sudden it kind of makes it taste like you're eating candy. While candy is a good thing, it may not be what you want on this salad because you really want some depth of flavor. And so give it a few minutes here to look at it, make sure it's presentable because we eat with our eyes first. Then I took a vanilla yogurt and thinned it with just a little bit of milk. And now we're going to drizzle this. If you want, I used vanilla because it's kind of basic and it's the first time people may have been trying a yogurt dressing on a salad, but you could also use a strawberry yogurt and it's going to make it a little pink. So if you're having a little girl's birthday party and it's all about being pink, you could do that easily. But there's your spinach salad and you've got great sources of nutrition. When we talk about plant-based, we've got a lot of plants here. We've got our herbs here. Herbs add flavor and texture and interest without ever adding any salt or anything that people don't want to have in their diet. Then we have all the fresh vegetables. We've really loaded up the vegetables, but then we've made sure that we've gotten the dairy component in there, whether it was yogurt or milk or cheese, to make sure that everything's balanced. We threw in some meat, we threw in some nuts because that's flavorful and it's good nutrition. So when you're looking at it, you can sit there and pick it apart and only pick out the parts you like, or you can just grab a big plate of it and enjoy. Do we have questions, Hannah?
Yes. We do, actually. I had a question myself. I think I know the answer to this. But you made the first two recipes with Greek yogurt.
Yes.
And your choice for that was why?
It has more protein and it's thick.
Okay.
If you're going to make a dip, I'm one of those people that like a thick dip. I don't want something runny, because if you dip a chip in it and it's all on the plate and not in your mouth, you get upset. So I like the thickness of it. I also like the fact that it has more protein in it and that it's more bang for your buck if you're going to sit there and enjoy something. And I kind of like the tang of the Greek yogurt. I think that it helps the herbs also. It brings out the flavors of the herbs a little bit more.
I love that. Well, that's one of the reasons that I like that salad, because there's a variety of protein options there. So of course you have chicken if you like it, but you get the protein from the nuts. You're going to get great protein from the cheese.
And that's why I went ahead and
the
used the
dressing.
regular yogurt, the
Uh-huh.
vanilla yogurt,
Mhm.
because I didn't need something gloppy. I kind of wanted it thinner, but that's not to say if all you have in the kitchen is Greek yogurt, just add a little bit more milk to it, thin it down.
Yeah, no, that's great. A couple more questions here. What kind of healthy dressing do you use on salad?
I'm really bad about this because I usually will do either a balsamic vinegar. That is my favorite, and there's so many good ones out there. There's a raspberry balsamic, there's a maple balsamic. You can go crazy with the balsamics. But I also like a yogurt dressing. If I want a creamy dressing, I will take this herb dip, just like it is, thin it out a little bit with a couple of tablespoons of milk, and go crazy on the salad. I'm kind of one of those one leaf, one dip kind of girls. I like my salad, but I really like the dressing.
Yeah, I love that. And just the fact that you have so much versatility from one thing to another. So you can make the dip, but then you can use it for a variety.
Well,
of
and
things.
if you were paying attention, we had the herb dip here. We bring it over to the tzatziki, where, yeah, right here. And all I did was add cucumbers to this dip. So we make it once. We're going to serve it a multitude of times. If you wanted to get crazy, you could go ahead and add the tomatoes, and you could add some cilantro in there and make a salsa dip for tortillas.
Oh, wow.
Remember, I'm lazy. I'm the laziest cook you'll ever meet. And so then we go from there. Then the only time we have to change is over here with a sweet dressing. But we could really use that herby dressing over here, because there's going to be some people that would like that. And if we wanted to change out the chicken and put bacon, oh heavens, yes, we could do that. Yeah, bacon's good on everything, and so is that dip. Fabulous.
I got another question here. Is it better to use non-fat yogurt or regular yogurt?
I think that that is a preference to anybody. I like the mouthfeel of full fat yogurt, whole milk yogurt, but there's applications where a non-fat yogurt works just as well. And so it's every individual, and you can speak more to that as the dietitian, but I think it's what you're able to do in your family, or whatever you're able to do for your personal goal.
Oh, sure. I think, definitely it's a matter of personal preference in some capacity there. What your diet is like, what it is that you need to consume. Maybe your doctor has you on certain restrictions. You might see a difference maybe in how thick or thin some of them are. I would guess, as from the chef there, whether or not it's going to be.
But I would look
quite
at the
same,
ingredients too. You don't want something you can't pronounce. If it says live cultures and milk and that's it, that's a pretty good product. Live, like real strawberries or something. If there's 10 words in there I can't pronounce, I'm probably going to set that on the shelf and go to something else.
Okay, I have two more questions. This next one I'm going to go as a gardening question. My indoor basil suddenly got white flies. Can I avoid that? Do you know?
It may be, sometimes it's something in the water. Sometimes it's something in the soil. So, and it could have gotten in the soil from the water. So that they're attracted to. I would repot it, and I would take it outside, shake all that off, and get some new clean soil and repot it. And then I would use like bottled water, some spring water, because it's got minerals in it, to water it.
Good suggestion. Let me see. I think that's about it. I think I've gotten everybody. One more. What suggestions do you have for sour strawberries?
Sour strawberries,
Uh-huh.
don't buy them. They're depressing. And I know that when it is depressing, but I will tell you that if you take an inexpensive balsamic vinegar and oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Okay, so sour strawberries, I would use balsamic vinegar. Take the balsamic vinegar, go the inexpensive route, buy something that's on sale, and put it in a pot and simmer it down by half. Simmer, don't boil, because you don't want to disrupt it. You just want to slowly get the water off of it. Then you're going to have this wonderful syrup, and then drizzle it over the strawberries. The other way to do it that I cheat sometimes, if the strawberries are a little white, strawberry yogurt is great. Put it all in there, mash it up, and nobody's gonna know the
Good tip.
difference.
Good tip.
It'll be good.
Awesome.
Put it over angel food cake, okay?
That's great. Well, thank you, ladies. I think that's all the questions that we have. We appreciate all of your demonstration tonight so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Mhm.
Thanks for inviting us.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I'll be sending out an email with those recipes so that you can all taste and enjoy at home. And I'll also include in that the companion planting that Vivian recommended for all of us to try. So please join us again in April 27th. We'll be talking about tips for cooking with leftovers. So hope you have a good evening and we'll see you soon.